This video is going to show you how to make a data table from all the data that you collected in the most recent experiment about the reaction time. So, assuming you're starting in Gmail, you want to go to Google Drive, which you find here, and click on that. What that's going to do is that's going to open a new tab for you that's going to show your Google Drive, and what you need to do is you need to navigate so that you're in your Science folder. Once you're in your Science folder, then you just make a new Google Doc, which should be one of the choices here. When you click on that, it's also going to pop open a Google Doc. Now, what you're going to see is I already have a question in mind because I'm going to use an example for this data table. And in my example, the experiment is going to have been one about push-ups and heart rate. So the question that would have been driving this experiment is, how does the number of push-ups affect heart rate? So in this case, you have to think about this experiment in terms of its variables to help you build a data table. And the experiment has two variables that we're looking at. One of them is the number of push-ups. Are you going to do a little bit of push-ups, a lot of push-ups? That's the first variable. That's actually the independent variable. The second one is going to be your heart rate. Is it going to be going slow, fast, super fast, things like that. So because you have two variables in this experiment, we're going to make a table that's got to have those two variables, and we're going to build the table piece by piece. So the first thing you should do is go to Table, up here, go to Insert Table, and just for starters, let's do a table that has two columns and just one row. And when you put that in, let's go ahead and just type in the words independent variable, because scientists agree that the independent variable goes on the left side of a table. And then we're going to type dependent variable here on the right. Scientists agree to put that on the right side. And notice I'm shrinking down the columns so that they don't fill the entire space. So now that you have your table started with the independent variable and a dependent variable, we're going to go ahead and name those. So remember the thing that we're going to do lots of different versions of to see what effect they have, that's the independent variable. And in this case, we're going to do lots of different versions of push-ups, like no push-ups, 10 push-ups, 20 push-ups, 30 push-ups, things like that. So this is going to be the title of that's going to be our actual independent variable. When we go to the dependent variable, that's the one that we're kind of measuring to figure out, like, do all those different versions actually matter? Do they make any difference? And what we think they do is they're going to make a difference here in the heart rate. Right here, heart rate, we have to also specify what's called the units, which is what we measure the heart rate by. We don't measure heart rate in kilometers or crazy things like that. We measure it in beats per minute. So that's what we put there. Now that you've got your sort of your title there and you've got your two columns, the next thing you have to think about is building the rows of this table. So we're going to have to build it down. The way you know how many rows to make is to think about how many versions of push-ups are you going to do. Well, in this case, we're going to do 0 push-ups, measure our heart rate. 10 push-ups, heart rate. 20, 30, and so on. So what we can do is we're going to add some rows. So one thing you can do is if you right-click, and I'll do that again, just right here with the cursor inside that cell, you right-click on it. Our goal is to insert a row below. See what, now we've just added, that could be for 0 push-ups. And one thing that is cool and saves us time from having to right-click all the time is when we're making rows, if you go to the last cell in the table and you hit Tab, which is over there on the left above Shift and Caps Lock, just hit Tab, it automatically builds a new row. And we can put the next version of push-ups, which is 10 push-ups. Now I'll hit Tab, I've got it blank, I can put 20, one more time, 30. So already I've start building the table. I'm already showing the versions of the independent variable, which is going to be 0 push-ups, 10 push-ups, 20 push-ups, and 30 push-ups. Now, most experiments, and like the one that we did on reaction time, you actually tried each version at least 3 times, right? So in our experiment, we did visual stimulus, and you did it 3 times. You measured it 3 times. We tried it 3 times. So in science, those are called trials. And we need to make sure our dependent variable here has 3 columns because there's 3 trials. Right now we only have 1 column. So what we need to do is, again, click inside our dependent variable column, right click, and now we're going to do insert column to the right. And you see it made a pretty big column over here. Let's just go right back here again, and let's do one more, insert column to the right. So suddenly we have 1, 2, 3 columns for dependent variable, because we tried each version of the independent variable 3 times. So that means we're going to need to put trial 1, trial 2, trial 3. Now we can't type right here because that's actually where the data for the 0 push-ups is going to go. So what we do is we come back up here and we insert a row below that we can use to actually type trial 1, trial 2, and trial 3. Now, what that means is we can then put the data for trial 1 when we had 0 push-ups, we put it right under there. So at this point, we've got our trials labeled. Now we have to clean things up a little before we put the data in. So the first thing we're going to do is something called merge. Notice these 3 up here, we want them to actually become 1. So you highlight them, just basically drag on them, highlight them, right click, look down your options list for merge cells, and there you go. You've already got those merged. Now these 2 over here we can merge because we don't need anything there. Same thing, highlight, right click, pick merge, and now you've got that. Okay, so we got a couple more things to do to clean this up and to make it look nice. Is we want to bold some things. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make all of these bold. So highlight the versions, go to the bold up here, or notice you can also hit Command B, and that'll save you some time. We're going to do the same thing here with the trials. Let me highlight those. Bold. Now, just so that this sort of highlights what the actual variable is, don't bold the words that say dependent variable, just bold heart rate, beats per minute. And let's go ahead and put a little space there. Make a new line. Same thing with the number of push-ups. Let's bold that. And we should be getting close to being done. Okay, the next thing we want to do is actually we want to center everything so that it fits. So that means highlight everything from the top left to the bottom right of your table and go to this issue here called center. Again, you can do Command-Shift-E if you want, but center. Look how much better this is already starting to look. Okay, now we're going to do one more thing is before we sort of do our final version, let's go ahead and add a title to this table. And for that, we actually need to make one more row above. So if we go above, did you see what I did? I'll just back up. I clicked in the dependent variable column again. Up there, I right-clicked and I chose Insert Row Above. This is a title, so it's going to be for the whole table. So first I'm going to highlight both of those 2 cells up there. Then I'm going to merge them. And now I'm going to type my title, which we're just going to keep it really simple and just name the 2 variables that this table is all about. And that was number of push-ups and heart rate. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and select all of that, bold it, and just because it's the title, I'm going to actually choose a larger font. Let's try font 14. So that it's clear that this is what the whole table is about. And we're almost ready to put the data in, but before we do that, I'm going to have you guys select everything except the data. So let's take the title, let's take the variables and the headings, and let's take the trials, and let's go to, it's probably going to be under more. Up here it probably says more for you, and if you look, maybe not, maybe it's in the rest of the toolbar, the tool button bar, and you click background color. We're going to have a light gray. You can get a preview of what it looks like, but we'll do light gray. And I'm going to do the same thing for the versions, and we're going to go back here and we're going to do light gray. And now we are ready to actually put the data in. So the data, we're not going to put anything like centimeters or seconds or beats per minute because we already handled that up here. Same goes here. We should never put any units down in the data and actually the numbers because it's been done in the headings. So let's pretend in this experiment when I didn't do any push-ups, my heart rate was 62, then 68, notice I'm hitting tab to jump from one cell to the next, and 60. When I did 10 push-ups, suddenly my heart rate jumped up to 76. The first time I tried it, I rested, tried it again, got 82 push-ups, rested, tried it again, got 74 push-ups, and so on. So let me speed through this so you can see what the final table looks like. And then it was 110 and 106 and 112. Now, what you'll see is a pretty complete table there that has the independent table on the left and the dependent variable on the right. So now what I need to do is add one more thing to this table, which you don't see yet, but it's going to be for calculating the averages. And because that's part of the dependent variable and that's the trials, it's the average of these 3 trials, I'm going to add a column over here to the right, and there it is. So now I'm going to actually type the word average here. For this part, I'm going to merge the cells. For this part up here as well, highlight, right click, merge the cells. Now you have a place to do the average. And before you can type in the average, but you also need to add some notes down here to show how you're actually doing that. So you type calculating the average. Now the way that you were shown how to do that is to basically take the first trial, add it to the second trial, add it to the third trial, and once you've added all those together, then you divide by 3 because you were doing 3 trials, and that will give you the average. Once you show the calculation and what it looks like, actually use numbers. So I'm going to use these numbers here, right here, for when we did 10 push-ups, what the 3 trials were. And in that case, I've got 70. Let's see, I'm going to go ahead and put the parentheses there. 76 plus 82 plus 74. Let me put some spaces between there. And divided by 3, and that's going to give me 77. So then I go in and I type 77 there. If I were to do the same thing for all of the other versions of the independent variable, I'd get their averages and I could fill those in as well. And at that point, the table would be pretty complete. If you've got that, then you probably didn't have the question, but I'll just delete it. And now you have a complete data table with notes below on how you calculated the averages. Notice you don't have to show every single calculation, just show one, because people will understand that you've used the same calculation for the different averages that you did over there. And by the way, this is actually, of the different averages this is the average called the mean. And you probably will see that in math class. Watch this video again if you have any questions and you get stuck. But the goal for you now will be to use this same analysis and make the data table for your own catching distance for the different types of stimulus, visual, auditory, tactile, that you did in your experiments. Good luck.